What's going on, guys? Lawson here with Mystery Tackle Box. Today we're going to be going over some of the saltwater lures you'll find in your saltwater box for the month of May. Got a bunch of good lures and I'm going to give you some tips to better help you catch some fish in this coming month. We're going to get after it. Alright, the first bait we're going to be going over right here is the Strike Pro Inquisitor 110. Now this is a jerkbait right here, and I love throwing a jerkbait fishing for snook. They're great for trout, redfish, tarpon, snook, really anything you're targeting inshore, but I'm primarily using them for snook. And what I like to do is we have some shallow areas around here with some docks surrounded, and I like to work it right along the edges of the dock piling, and then I like to work the jerkbait in the empty spaces between docks. And it's a good variation between throwing something where you're specifically targeting docks, where this, I like to call it a search bait. We're covering a ton of water, making a lot of casts, we're moving at a good pace, and so it's not super slow fishing, but you're still covering water and catching fish. So a lot of times when I'm fishing a jerkbait around docks, I'll throw it up, and when it's around the dock pilings, I'll twitch it a few times and I'll let it sit for a while, maybe 5 seconds. And I really want to leave that bait in the strike zone as long as possible and leave it around the edge of the dock pilings. And we're just imitating maybe a pilchard, a sardine, a mullet, any type of small bait fish that's just cruising down the dock pilings, being washed by the current. And when you're letting it twitch and turn sideways in the current, you're giving a lot of time for that fish that's underneath the dock to strike, and you're gonna have your best luck doing that. All right, the next bait we're gonna talk about here is a sea spin shrimp. Now this is an awesome bait, and we're gonna use this fishing docks, but this could be killer almost anywhere. In my opinion, a soft plastic shrimp is probably one of the best lures you can have in your tackle box, because everything in the ocean eats a shrimp. Literally almost every single fish does. They are killer. You can fish them around docks, grass, flats, any structure, anywhere. They work well. We're gonna be throwing this one on a weightless swim bait hook for the sake of skipping it underneath docks. All right, I think one of the biggest mistakes people make when fishing soft plastic shrimps underneath docks is that they work it way too fast. What I like to do is I'll throw that bait under there and I'll just tighten up a little bit, but I want that shrimp to go down to the bottom of the dock, because a lot of times the snook, trout, reds, whatever you're fishing for underneath that dock, they're on the bottom and they're just kind of hanging out, but you want your bait to sink all the way to the bottom, because most of the time, unless shrimp are being chased, they're not flying through the water like a jerkbait would. They're on the bottom crawling. And so I'll let that sink down and I'll just very slowly tap it, where it's just a double tap, one kick to pump some mud, and then the second kick to kind of carry the shrimp a little bit, and then it's all the way back down. And when you start really slowing down and working that bait, you'll get a lot more bites. And it's insane how many times I've been fishing underneath docks and the bite comes when you're not even moving your bait. You're just letting it sit perfectly still on the bottom. And a lot of times what will happen is you'll skip it up underneath that dock and your shrimp is just slowly floating down, and the action just from it sinking looks great, and it'll be sitting there on the bottom, and a snook, trout, red, whatever will come down and hammer it. And a lot of times you'll let it sink, and maybe it's your first twitch, you'll get bit, but slow down your presentations and it's going to yield a lot more fish. Alright, so I know probably a lot of you guys, you may not get to fish during the day, and I have a lot of friends too who most of their fishing is at nighttime, and it's night fishing, lights and bridges and stuff like that. You know, you get off work and you want to get out in the water, but it's already dark, you come out and night fish. So something right here, this is the shrimp that we're throwing earlier underneath the docks, but now it's rigged up on a jig head, and we're going to fish this really slowly around the light. And most times you can get a reaction strike and kind of work it quick, but I have more luck throwing it up outside of the light and dragging it really slowly, and those fish kind of hone in on the vibrations and the mud that your bait's kicking up from just bouncing up and down, and they'll come out and find it. All right, next bait we're going to show you right here is an Ema stick sardine. Now this is a perfect bait for an afternoon or a morning session. I love to throw top waters at low light conditions. That's where you have your best luck. And baits like this is almost like a stick bait, I'd call it. It's almost half of a popper, and they are great for tarpon, jack, bluefish. any fish that kind of likes to move around a lot, and we're going to be making really far search casts with this. You know, you can target points that have a lot of current moving across them, or I even like to get in big bay areas and you're making really long search casts and working that popper pretty aggressively and just covering a lot of water trying to find those fish. All right, when I'm throwing pencil popper like baits, I walk them still like I'm walking the dog, walking the spook. Now you want to vary how you work it for what you're fishing for though. You know, for tarpon, I want to move a little slower, so it is going to be kind of a dog. I'm just walking it side to side just like that. But you know, fishing for maybe a jack or a bluefish or maybe a striper, you're going to want to move this faster, and that's when these pencil poppers are really good and they come and play well. As you throw that out there and you can work them almost just across the water as fast as you can, where it's not really walking, it's just flying across the water. And that's supposed to be like a mullet or any type of bait fish, a mullet, a sardine, a flying fish, just really making its way across the water like it's being chased. And that's really what you're trying to do when you're throwing a lot of lures, is you're trying to imitate a fish being chased, and that's what's triggering the response from the game fish. All right, the next bait we're going to be talking about right here, this is a Bruiser Baits Rad Shad. Now this is a fluke style bait, and flukes are probably one of the most versatile baits that you'll have in your tackle box, at least in my opinion, because just depending on how you rig it, you can fish it a ton of different ways for a ton of different fish. You know, you can work it fast across the top for jack and bluefish, you know, at later hours like right now, or you can slow it down and put a jig head on it and fish it on the bottom for trout and snook and redfish. You can hook it weedless and really work it through grass fields like nothing else. And even tarpon love fluke style baits. So we're back in a little creek. We're gonna be throwing around looking for snook, tarpon, maybe some jack, and see if we can connect with some fish. All right, not the biggest fish that we're looking for, but that's a fish on the Bruiser Baits right here. Beautiful. Threw it right over a dock light, and this little ugly looking fat snook came out and hit it. This is a rough looking fish, kind of bit up in the tails and the fins, but they're all good. Some are just better. He's just not one of the better ones, I would say. But it's cool just seeing these baits work in action, and these are baits that I just opened them up today, some of the first ones I've used, and it just shows really how well these baits work. And you know, apply your knowledge to what you know about similar baits and the results will come from it. Alright guys, that is it for me. Hopefully you learned a little bit, and these tips will help you catch more fish this upcoming month with Mystery Tackle Box Saltwater Edition. I had a blast, I'll be honest. Fishing for snook around dock lights is one of my favorite things, or fishing around docks in general. And there's a lot of baits in your box that are going to be great for fishing around docks and grass flats for snooks, reds, trouts, tarpon, whatever you have in your area. So hopefully you guys catch some fish. If you do, tag me in them, tag Mystery Tackle Box in them. I appreciate you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. See ya.